All right, NFL fans, welcome back to another episode, the second episode of The Way We See It. This is what's taking place for your viewing pleasure in the offseason. I'm Jeff Hartman, joined by Wesley Coleman. What's up, Wesley? How are you?
Doing good, man. You heading to Indianapolis for the draft or for the
Nope.
combine?
We will have a representative at Fans First Sports Network. Kevin Smith, our coach, will be there, boots on the ground. And so if you're looking for any prospect information, you know how to get a hold of me, and we can maybe get a quote or two for you guys if your Saints are looking at a potential prospect. But no, the combine is this week. What are your thoughts on that just before we get started? Do you like the combine? Do you think it's just kind of all pomp and circumstance? Where do you stand?
I like the combine. I think that more gets put into it than should. If I want to see tape of people playing football and being
Right.
competitive during a game at football. There's a lot of great athletes that have been drafted high because of being athletic at the combine that didn't end up being good football players. And I mean, there's a lot of guys with, you measure their hands, you measure their wingspan, and you wouldn't have ever drafted them.
Right.
And then that doesn't have anything to do with football. Like how many centers actually run a 40-yard dash during a football game ever in their career?
I know that yesterday on the whip around, Coach Kevin Smith said the bench press he thinks is one of the more overrated lists, because if you're a lineman and you're pushing someone off of you from your back, that means you just got pancaked. That's not a good place to be. So
it is not. No, but I mean, listen, I think there's important stuff too. I think that getting people's real height and real weight, and just seeing them be athletic. Yeah, I mean, there's parts of it that's fun, but also, I mean, a lot of these guys quit doing the training that's great for their football body in order to be good at the combine. So you'll see a lot of guys will slim down so they can jump and they can run, but like that's not what they should be playing. They need to gain another 15 pounds back before week 1.
Well, and they'll gain it back. And that's what's great. So they have this fluctuation. And so we talk about the rookie wall. Like, that's a really common talking point in the National Football League with these rookies. Think about what they go through. It's like the top prospects at their position, they finish their season. They then have to change their prep completely and get ready for all-star games, which that's not much of a change. But after those all-star games, whether it's the Shrine Bowl, whether it's the Senior Bowl, now they have to say, okay, I got to get ready. Like you said, running, jumping, explosive movements. So they stop lifting as much. They lose weight. Then they got to put weight back on. Like that puts a toll on the body outside of the just training in and of itself. I'll be honest though, I won't watch. I don't watch the combine. I'll see clips on Twitter and stuff about players that run, do extremely well. It's never really intrigued me, especially with players that now say, yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to throw. I'm not going to run. If you're injured, I get it. But people that just say, I'll just do it at my pro day. It's like, well, then why would I watch the combine? I'll just watch your pro day, which is now
Right.
televised on the NFL Network as well. Are you going to tune in at all?
Well, sure. Yeah. When the wide receivers and the cornerbacks are sprinting, I'm gonna see if anybody's gonna run a 4.2 or 4.3, whatever it is. I'll see who's gonna run the fastest one. And then it's like when the Bengals drafted John Ross because he ran really fast.
Yeah.
That didn't work out too well for them in the long run.
No. And that was Xavier Worthy last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, which again, by the end of the year, like he was a legitimate player, but he at least had some good catches in college. There was a little bit of football player there. So but yeah, I'll watch some of it to see how fast some of the guys run, and some of those things are fun. And then, listen to the all the common people that are sitting at the bar at Chili's saying that they could run a 5-second 40 who can't run in a 6.5-second 40. It's always fun to see how many people don't understand that they cannot run a 5-second 40.
Go down to the local Applebee's and poll people on whether they can run a 5-second 40. All right. So I'm sure one of your TVs on your wall of televisions will have the combine on, but let's talk about the NFL and football. Something, again, the NFL world just switches so quickly. Super Bowl ends, and then I get it. 30 of the 32 teams, they'd already been in full offseason mode. And everyone's just like, let's turn the page. Let's get ready for the combine. Let's get ready for the new league year. Let's go back and talk about the two teams that were in the Super Bowl. Philadelphia Eagles obviously beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Do you think a Super Bowl repeat is in the works? Now, when I say repeat, let's just talk about these two teams from an individual perspective and whether you think they'll be able to get back next year. There's a lot of different factors here. There's history that goes on both sides of the docket, especially for the losing team in the Super Bowl. Just off the top, what's your take on the Eagles and or the Chiefs and their ability to maybe get back next year in 2025?
I mean, I think it's a harder ask for the Chiefs to get back, and that may sound crazy since they will still have Patrick Mahomes,
Yes.
but I just think that again they won 12 games this year, 12 one-score games, and if you just go back to the mean, they're a team that is struggling to make the playoffs and is going to be on the road as a seventh seed if they lose half of those, and maybe don't make the playoffs if they actually lose 6 of those, and go 9-8. So, I mean, I think it's a really tough road for the Chiefs. I think we should probably look at what kind of cap space and free agents the two teams have, and see how realistic it is. I don't know. The Chiefs are now paying Patrick Mahomes and Chris Jones
Yeah.
and Travis Kelce a lot of money. And I think they just signed an offensive lineman last year too. So they've got some expensive contracts. It makes it harder to keep the team together.
Absolutely. And so you have the free agency, the free agents for both of these teams, correct?
I do.
All right. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the losers or the winners?
Let's start with the losers. We're already
All right.
talking
Let's go
about
with
them.
the Chiefs. Who are their pending free agents coming up this offseason?
So I mean, big ones. Your two biggest ones are really probably Trey Smith, the guard, and Nick Bolton, the linebacker. Both impact players for them, and are going to be expensive. Is I guess is the big part of it, because I believe that the salary cap's a myth. I'm not going to get too much into it. Like whatever number it looks like isn't the real number. If you just look at it, the Chiefs are $3.6 million over the cap. I'm pretty sure that as soon as they restructure Patrick Mahomes, they get like $45-50 million, something like that.
Yeah.
It's something stupid. So don't want to focus on the salary cap too much, as that can be moved all around. But the Chiefs also, who are a team who haven't had wide receivers, and again, they have a young one and Xavier Worthy coming up. DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, and Juju Smith-Schuster, and Justin Watson are all free agents.
Yep.
And we're just going. McCole Hardman, also a free agent after this year. So basically, their entire receiving core outside of the second year player that they'll have. And just throwing another couple ones in there. Obviously, Justin Reed, the safety, has been big for them. Charles Aminahu was a good defensive end for them. I believe had a few sacks this year. It's also Kareem Hunt, I think, is expected to return to them. And then left tackle DJ Humphries, who I believe is close to the end of his career, might be going away. But and then backup quarterback Carson Wentz, who
That's a big one.
has won a Super Bowl.
I looked at this stuff right after the Super Bowl. I think Adam Schefter was tweeting once a game was over, he would tweet out, "Here are the notable free agents," and I saw the same thing you did. Some key players on the defensive side, like Nick Bolton, but then you're looking at the receivers, like that's their entire receiving core outside of Xavier Worthy. That's an issue. I don't care who the quarterback is. You got to find someone for him to throw the ball to. And you look at their cap situation, which, yes, they'll be able to maneuver money around and they'll be able to get some cap space, but they're not going to be able to go out and get a high price free agent, most likely, because they can't afford it.
Right.
And this is what happens when you have a franchise quarterback and you also have players like Chris Jones that are paid handsomely, rightfully so. He's a great player. They're going to run into some issues. And so this gives me pause. When you look at 2024, you already mentioned the one score victories. You look at the lack of cap space, you look at the pending free agents, and man, you just feel like, how long are they going to be able to keep this thing together with bubblegum and duct tape? They've done a tremendous job. In the last 2 seasons, I mean, they won a Super Bowl 2 years ago. They made it to the Super Bowl this year. You cannot bemoan or poo-poo that success. That happened. Like, that is real. But at the same time, I kind of get the feeling like this thing is kind of starting to fall apart a little bit. You agree or disagree?
Yeah, I mean, so Travis Kelce's 35 years old, and I think his brother just retired last year at 36. Yep. There's been questions over his health and how longer he was going to play anyway. And this year, he basically just kind of floated through the regular season, turned it on for the playoffs until the Super Bowl, and when he looked like a shell of himself in the Super Bowl. And then we talk about Chris Jones. Chris Jones only 30 years old, which is kind of surprising. It seems like he's been in the league, but Chris Jones seems like one of those guys that ain't playing when he's 33.
Yeah.
And the calf injury he dealt with like a lot of the year, it seems like this year, but he kind of has dealt with injuries throughout the season. I'm just not sure of the money he's making if he's a guy that's wanting to play 2 or 3 more years either. So with the age, and then I think it would be fair to say, and a Chiefs fan could be sitting here right now listening going, well, all of our wide receivers weren't good. I'm glad we're getting rid of all of them. And that's a fair point, but you can't replace all of them. You got to bring 4 people in and teach them the offense. So it might sound good of like our receiving crew wasn't good enough. Well, no, you want to replace the top end and still keep the lower tier guys to keep it together and like that know your system, not train the entire receiving core in your system. So I we could be hitting well. Now again, Patrick Mahomes is a great equalizer, right? I mean, at any time he can win a game or get a call or a fake that he got hit,
Yeah.
and be just fine. So I mean, I think that's it's going to keep you competitive no matter what. I don't think they're going to be terrible, but expecting them to be back in the Super Bowl seems like a long shot.
So let's take a look at the history of the league, and we're just going to look at recent history in terms of the Super Bowl loser. And there's a lot of people that feel like it's a jinx, like the runner-up jinx is what some people label this as. And it's kind of hit or miss. So when you look at like 2024, the San Francisco 49ers, they lost the Super Bowl in overtime. In 2023, I'm sorry. In 2024, they went 6-11, missed the playoffs. But then you go back to 2023, the Eagles, they lost the Super Bowl, but they did make the playoffs and were 11-6. Now that team was tanking hard at the end of the season, but still they did make the postseason. In 2021, the Bengals made the Super Bowl. They lose, but they made the playoffs in 2022. They finished 12-4. The Chiefs lost the Super Bowl in 2020, but in 2021, they too made the playoffs at 12-5. And then you go back to the San Francisco 49ers in 2019. They did not make the playoffs in 2020, finishing 6-10. 2018, the Rams losing the Super Bowl. And then in 2019, they missed the playoffs at 9-7. For those that think it's a jinx, like they missed the play, they didn't win the Super Bowl. There's no way they make the playoffs. It's been proven more often than not that it's not a given. That there are difficult parts of trying to get back to the postseason, but if there's a team that could do it, I think it's the Chiefs. I talked about duct tape and bubble gum. Andy Reid and those guys, they'll have their team competitive. Say what you want about the AFC West. I have my hesitations about the AFC West and how difficult it is. I think the Broncos are going to be more of a competitor. The Chargers, I don't know. The Raiders are going to be awful. I think they're going to be right back in the mix. You agree?
I mean, I think it's still going to be a competitive division. I think that they might be falling back down a little bit to where it's almost equal. We'll see what the Raiders get as far as a quarterback, of what Tom Brady can pull there. I think that they're still probably a couple years away, but I think the Chiefs will come back to where there's a really competitive season between who's going to get first place out of them, the Chargers and the Broncos, though. And I think the Broncos will get better. The Chargers will be about what they were, and the Chiefs will fall back to this crowd a little bit.
All right, so let's go to the other side, the winning docket, the Philadelphia Eagles. I looked at their pending free agents. I remember right after the Super Bowl, not as bad as the Chiefs. What do they have? What are they facing?
Well, I think that's more high end. They've got some problems, I believe, that they have to address, and people they can't lose. One, linebacker Zach Bond,
yes,
is going. I mean, had Defensive Player of the Year votes. Potentially, a lot of people think could have won Defensive Player of the Year, and they absolutely cannot lose him. They just had him on like a $750,000 vet minimum. Can't believe some idiot team drafted him and then didn't ever promote him from special teams to starter. But I think that's a big one for him. Now, moving beyond there, potential Super Bowl almost MVP Josh Sweat is a free agent for them. And honestly, if they had gotten eliminated in the NFC Championship game, Josh Sweat would have gotten $3 million less per year than what he's probably going to get. Just the Super Bowl with all those eyes on him, and he had an incredible game. I think it's really going to be big for him. And them needing to keep Josh Sweat becomes so much more important because Brandon Graham is retiring. And if they lose both of them, that just crushes what their pass rush from the edge.
What does their cap situation look like this offseason?
Again, the cap is it's fake, but they're just under
Oh,
$14 million.
yeah.
Now, having said that, I, I know they have Jalen Hurts contract, but I don't know how much they're going to get out of Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith's contracts, because they've already gone into their bigger deals. But I think they have plenty of room where they can move. It's just, if we're talking about, 15-16 million dollar linebacker and 20-23 million dollar defensive end, you're cutting into a lot of whatever you clear up with those guys.
Well,
Um,
yeah, I almost feel like they'd have to pick which one they prioritize over the other. And I don't know what the answer is because, like you said, Bond had a great year.
they're not
And
losing Bond.
no, but at the same time, like there was a reason why he was on a veteran minimum deal. Like he wasn't the Saints were the team that didn't promote him off special teams, by the way. But still, there's he didn't say that earlier, but I wanted to make sure people knew. And for him, is there a chance that this was a 1-year wonder? Who knows? They would know it better than anyone. And then Sweat, like you mentioned, they got to keep him too because they're going to need that pass rush presence, but maybe they feel like they could get that in free agency. Maybe they could get that in the NFL draft. That's a dangerous game that you play, but you do have to pick and choose when you're talking about a team that only has roughly $14 million in cap space. I don't know. I don't know which way I'd go.
And a couple of other ones, just, I mean, in the trenches. So interior defensive line, Fletcher Cox retired a year ago, and Milton Williams kind of took his spot as the anchor there in the middle. They did not last year draft any other defensive tackles and or interior defensive linemen. And Milton Williams is now a free agent. Now, again, they do have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, but Milton Williams does play a different position next to them, and they're going to need that short up because they have nothing in the wings of somebody coming up now. And then last one, they guard Mekhi Becton is also going to be a free agent, and I mean he's going to get a big deal. I can't imagine they're going to be able to afford to keep him. And it's somebody who was almost kind of talked about as a bust and almost was out of the league, and really became a guard and just mauling people, and became like he's going to be a viable free agent this offseason.
All right. So you think they make it back?
I think that they've got a better chance than the Chiefs, but no, I mean, I still think that the Lions are going to make moves this offseason and they're going to be healthier. Now, they did lose their offensive and defensive coordinators, but that is a great roster when healthy. And if they add some of the players that you and I have speculated about and really go in on defense and have health, they're going to be tough. And then I just think the Commanders, as close as they got, they upset the Lions, and they went to Philadelphia. Young team, they're going to have a lot of cap space. They're going to build around Jaden Daniels and put him in a great spot to absorb the sophomore slump and not have it. There's going to be some competition, I think, there for the Eagles. But yeah, they're the favorite from the NFC right now. They're not losing enough of their team to wonder if they won't be the favorite.
Well, the
What do you
one thing
think?
the one thing that's interesting is you talk about the Chiefs. Like I look at them, and even though they have the issues that we just talked about, I still see them as the honest favorites. I mean, they're probably going to win the division again. So you're going to host a playoff game. Yes, the Denver Broncos are going to be better, but I still believe that. You look at the NFC East. The Commanders are an up and coming team, and like you said, this team could look totally different in this upcoming year when it comes to free agency and the amount of money they have to spend. I could see the Commanders vying for that division. It's not going to be a cakewalk for the Eagles. I mean, the Cowboys are probably going to suck still, and the Giants are the Giants, but still, I think that this Eagles team is built to run it back. The question is can they get the job done? And so after a year with Saquon Barkley, our team's going to adjust. Is Jalen Hurts going to be able to elevate his team? This is going to be the big question mark. And I think if I'm a betting man, if I'm betting on one of these two teams to make it back, I'm betting on the Eagles. I think that's a safer bet. That doesn't mean that they're going to escape the NFC. I think the NFC is going to be a lot better in 2025. You mentioned Detroit. Let's also not forget Minnesota, depending on what they do at their quarterback position. Let's say they were to make a trade for Matthew Stafford or something like that. That would make them a very legitimate threat, I believe, in the NFC. I already mentioned the Commanders. Tampa Bay's probably not going to get worse. They're probably only going to get better. It's interesting. The NFC, I think, is highly competitive entering 2025.
Yeah, I think that the NFC has quite a few ascending teams that are wanting to step up and are going to have some competition here. The thing is, and this is so maybe weird to say about the Chiefs, who have been to an AFC Championship game or better every year of Patrick Mahomes' career. But I don't know. I'm not going to call the Chiefs descending, but they seem like they're going to fight hard to hold serve and be there. Where I think the Bills will be better next year. I think the Bengals will be healthier, and they're going to make changes on their defense. So you've got teams that are going to get better. The Broncos, I don't know if Bo Nix can take the step, but the Broncos surprised a lot of people this year. If they take any kind of step, they're a dangerous team. So I just think it's the older Chiefs team. It's harder for them to hold serve. Having said that, they've done it every year of Patrick Mahomes' career.
Yeah.
So, I mean, all of that's just if they're in the playoffs, you don't want to play them.
Okay, so to wrap this up, if someone says you have to bet, is there going to be a repeat Super Bowl in 2025? I am betting no. What about you?
Yeah, I'll take the field and say no.
Okay. I want to get your thoughts. We're not ending the show yet. I want to get your thoughts at the NFL scouting combine. Rumors have been swirling. The, competition committee is getting ready to meet this offseason, and there's been a lot of things brought up. Kickoff rules, maybe moving the touchback to the 35-yard line to hopefully encourage more teams to actually return their ball. That's not here nor there. The Green Bay Packers reportedly were the team that submitted the tush push to be illegal. They want to get rid of it, get it out of the game. Wesley, what's your take on this?
Well, I mean, are we talking about in real football or in Madden? Because I mean, there's a big thing going on that the tush push doesn't exist in Madden, and it's driving people crazy.
I don't play video games. So I'm
Me,
talking about real life.
either. So I've got mixed feelings on the tush push. So one, I don't think that a play should be banned because one team is better at it than everybody else. It would be like similarly saying that, I mean, like, well, you can't draft a basketball player to play tight end because Jimmy Graham was really good at it at one time.
Yeah.
There was some weird stuff that Sean Payton and the Saints have done with Taysom Hill. Like, well, you can't have a guy that plays tight end and running back and quarterback in the same game. I mean, just because you don't have a player like that can do that. So I do have a problem of banning it because of that. Where I get conflicted on it is I know there are plays where the defense cannot do the tush push in order to break through the offensive line of scrimmage, and I disagree with that. I think that giving the offense an advantage over the defense is strange and wrong. So maybe there should be some adjustments to the way other plays are called, but I'm not sure if I think the tush push itself should be banned. And I mean, what do you think? Does it lead to quarterbacks getting injured? Is it just an unfair, weird play that a team could honestly go down the field an entire drive doing the tush push and you couldn't do anything about it?
I think I would have a resolution that they could have that is not just saying the tush push is illegal. And it would extend to all different plays. And they used to do this in college. And that was you are not allowed to push a teammate forward.
Right.
Remember, this was like the Reggie Bush at Notre Dame where everyone was freaking out because it looked like he got pushed into the end zone at South Bend way back in the day. That was the rule in college football. I don't know if that still exists in college football. If the NFL says you are not allowed to push a teammate forward, then guess what would stop? All those weird dead play running back is kind of being stood up. It's done. You can't push them forward. So just stop. You can run a quarterback sneak and you can put all these people in front and have all these configurations, but they cannot push the quarterback forward or whoever is pretending to be the quarterback. Some teams do a different player, not the quarterback. If they want to go down that road, I think that's the way you do it. I think you say you're just not allowed to push a teammate forward. If it's seen, either you could say if someone starts to push, the ball is dead when the push starts, or you could make it a 5-yard penalty. I don't care. But nonetheless, I think that is the way you do it instead of saying we're banning the tush push, brotherly shove, whatever the hell they're calling it now. I think that's the way you say it. I think that's the way you put that line in the sand to say, we're just going to eliminate this type of play altogether. Because I know from a football fan's perspective, I've watched a ton of games this year where you saw sometimes quick whistles with running backs where all of a sudden they gain 5, 6, 7 more yards. And then no, it's got brought back because it was a quick whistle. It would eliminate some of that stuff. What's your take? What's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, if we're going to allow the tush push, should we allow? Because right now, like if an offensive lineman picked up a running back and ran with him, the play is dead because you can't pick up your player and run with him. Like,
Correct.
what's really the difference of picking up and running with somebody or pushing them? And then also, like, I mean, there's 53 men on a team, and quite a few of them don't ever get in the game. Like, what stops somebody from going and taking the 3 people from the best bobsled team in the world, and like they can get 4 yards on every single play.
Yeah.
I mean, like honestly, I think so I do worry about it going to changing the game where the Eagles happen to have a certain amount of 3 or 4 players that make this work. What if a team like really, really buys into it and really goes with like 3 people that just have leg drive and stay low, and we're just going to run them together over and over again? I think that it would take, this would be a different conversation if somebody got the ball at the 25 and have a 75-yard drive of tush pushes, which could happen. I think that there is, I mean, like the Eagles could probably get pretty close to getting first downs over and over again doing that. I don't know. There's things I don't like about it. I also don't like when you're drawing a play up like that that's intended to take an advantage on the defense, but then we're going to award a touchdown because the defense gets 3 offsides in a row or something on your trick play. So I don't know. I just think it's a convoluted conversation, but I think kind of what you were alluding to, it's really difficult how you're going to word that. How are you going to word it to where all you're taking out is the tush push, not regular football plays that just happen? I don't want to see that a player just can't be pushed by his teammate. I don't want to see that. That's way too vague and way too many things that can happen, because that's like saying, so 3 defenders can tackle 1 running back, but a running back and his offensive lineman can't push through multiple tacklers. Like,
they block
you can
them.
you can
get
tackle
in their
somebody,
way,
but you can't gang run or gang block. I mean, I don't know. It just starts getting weird about.
I get it, but I just don't think it would ever look, sound, feel right if they say the tush push is illegal. You can't do it. So, okay, how do we make a broader rule that eliminates that play? There you go. You cannot offense. And let's be honest, if that's the case, and they do go the route of I said, and I did not create this rule, it was a former college football rule. If they go down that road, oh my gosh, it's a rule that favors the defense. There's not many of those anymore in the NFL. So you know what? There you go, defense. We're giving you one. I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. If Jalen Hurts wants to line up and he has Dallas Goedert to his left and he has AJ Brown to his right or whoever else they want to put, and they're blocking alongside him, you're totally fine. You just can't have Saquon Barkley behind him, shoving him forward for 4 or 5 yards. So I think I fixed it. You're welcome, NFL. But I also did not expect to get a Cool Runnings reference from you talking about the Jamaican bobsled team. So, what a show. What a freaking show this is.
I will say, I know that the tush push is the one that's getting all the hype. I am way more concerned with the onside kicks and ways. I think that we've just gotten to a place to where if you're down by 9 points in less than 4 minutes in a game or 3 minutes in a game and don't have all your timeouts, the game's over. And you think you're ruining the end of games in the name of concussion protocol that just on a play that doesn't happen but a few times a year anyway.
And you and I are both fans of a team that have seen at the biggest game of the year in a Super Bowl using a surprise onside kick completely change the outcome. Now, in 1995 in Super Bowl 30, when the Steelers lost to the Cowboys, they did not come back and win. But if they don't have that to start the second half and they recover that onside kick, they don't have a chance against Troy Aikman and that team. You saw the Saints do the same thing. Like
2009, the Saints had ambush was to open the second half with a onside kick, took control of the game, and beat the Colts.
I hate that they've done this to the onside kick. And in the last 9 minutes or whatever, you have to tell the other team you're doing it. What planet are we living on? This is so stupid.
Terrible.
So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe
how would you feel if your team So there may be a lot of people who hate the tush push, but Green Bay Packers fans are having to say that their team's the one that went out and whined about it. Like, do you
This
hate
isn't
the tush push,
fair.
but you are glad that the Steelers aren't the team that whined about it?
Yes.
Like, I want the tush push taken away, but man, I'm glad it's not my team that's on record being the crybabies about it.
The Steelers will never be one of those teams because Mike Tomlin's on the competition committee. So how bad would that be if the coach that's on the competition committee is like, I don't like this play, guys. Let's change it. Like, that's awful. So thankfully that doesn't happen. But all right. Good show, Wesley, as always, man. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on social media?
You can find me on X at WhoDatWesley13. I'll talk to you about any of your sports or movie takes or Severance or White Lotus, whatever you want. Jeff, where can we find you and your Steelers coverage?
Yeah, you can find me on the Steel Curtain Network wherever you get your podcasts, or you can check us out at steelcurtainnetwork.com. Also, you can find me on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. I talk about golf, all sports, you name it, find me there. But that's it. Another episode of The Way We See It is in the books. Wesley, thanks for your time, man. We'll talk next week.
Thank you.